Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third weekend of The Right Crowd. Today, I am joined by three wonderful authors and poets on their Panel of Poets, Volume 1. Today, we'll feature a Q&A segment as well as poetry readings from each of our amazing panelists.
So, aquí estamos con la señorita Katelynn Rentería, que les brinda a todos ustedes un bienvenido. Y ella está aquí con nosotros. Dos, y muy pronto seremos tres, Miss Nely Gonzalez, Mr. Edward Vidauri, que también nos va a acompañar. Miss Katelynn?
Muchas gracias. So we'll begin with panelist introductions, and each panelist will introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about them, about their books, and about their written work. And I just want to say very quickly before we begin, for anyone on Facebook and YouTube, thank you for watching, and be sure to leave a comment and ask questions, interact. This is all about interaction and having a lot of fun with the audience as well. So panelist introductions will begin starting with Mr. Frank Brewster.
So, aquí vamos con unas cuantas introducciones de parte de nuestra parte. Yo soy Frank Brewster III. Va a seguir Miss Nely Gonzalez y ojalá muy pronto va a estar con nosotros de nuevo el señor Edward Vidauri. Primeramente, yo soy de nuevo Frank Brewster III. Soy nativo aquí de McAllen, Texas. Fui a la escuela de McAllen, al distrito de McAllen, Texas, hasta que estaba en junior high. Pero igualmente a la misma vez, es otra historia, también fui y estuve en la escuela de Skinner Elementary en Brownsville, y en McAllen, Austin Elementary and Navarro Elementary, y luego Sherryland, los últimos 7 años de mi estudio, de donde gradué. Inclusive gradué también de la Universidad de Pan Go Bronx, Go Bronx! Para nosotros que somos Bronx de aquella era. Estoy casado. Mi esposa, Ángela Isaura Vázquez, es también autora, es profesora aquí en el distrito de Mission, Texas. Y tenemos 4 hijos, 2 hijas grandes de edad. La grande ya está ella para sacar su título de doctorado. Y luego 2 pequeños, que ya cumplió la pequeña 20 años la semana pasada y el nene de 21 años, ya están grandes de edad. Yo estoy retirado de varios distritos aquí en el Valle, donde fui head director por muchos años. Y ahora presuro el ser autor desde los últimos 10 años que me empecé a enfocar. Y en un ratito les presentaré a ustedes un poco más de mi parte. Miss Nely.
Hola, buenas tardes. Buenas tardes, señor Frank, Katelynn. Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Nely González. Yo soy originaria de un pueblo de Tamaulipas que se llama Villa Mainero, Tamaulipas. Ahí nací, ahí fui a la escuela, Realmente fui a la escuela solo hasta 6º año. Ahí en ese tiempo no había secundaria o prepa o algo así, ¿verdad? De ahí sales de la escuela, normalmente sales de 6º. Comienzas a trabajar para ayudar a la casa, por decir, ayudas a tus papás con tu trabajo. Me casé a los 19 años, tengo 4 hijos. Mis hijos, 2 son graduados de Panam, ahorita en este momento, aquí en Edimburgo. Bueno, ya no es Panam, ¿verdad? Pero siempre estamos dispuestos a decir Panam. Tengo un hijo que es trailero, mi otro hijo más chico, él, cuando salió de high school fue a los Marines, entonces estuvo 6 años y ahorita en la actualidad apenas tiene 2 años estudiando en Panam. Tengo 2 nietos de parte de él, todos están casados ahorita. Mi esposo también es trailero, tenemos 39 años casados, y soy escritora desde hace alrededor de unos 25 o 28 años. Me ha gustado, desde niña me ha gustado la poesía. Primero la leía de otros autores, después me puse a escribir porque ya tenía, o sea, como que ya se venían más cosas a la mente. Ahorita en la actualidad tengo estos 2 libros, que es que se llama Un Corazón en Soledad. Tiene 150 poemas, tiene ahí un dibujo, es un cerro, es el cerro que está en mi pueblo, en Mainero, Tamaulipas. Hice una pequeña pintura de él y luego ya se plasmó aquí al libro, ¿verdad? Después, como al año y medio, hice este otro que se llama Una carta y 100 poemas para ti. Tiene 106 poemas, gracias. También estoy en alguna antología, últimamente estoy en esta antología que se llama Silencios Compartidos del Club de Letras y Arte de Hueslaco, Texas. Y también estoy en esta revista, bueno, en algunas revistas he salido con algunos poemas, ¿verdad? Eso es lo que tengo hasta ahorita y tengo mucho más material para más adelante, pues me gustaría hacer algún otro libro, ¿verdad? Y bueno, más adelante ya les cuento otras cosas. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Thank you. And we are being joined by Mr. Edward Vidauri just in time for his introduction. He did that on purpose to slide on in at just the right time.
Hola, ¿cómo están?
Hi everyone. I'm sorry. I'm in the middle of two things here. I have a reading on a Zoom with some authors from my press, and I was listening in on them, so I wanted to check them out. But I'm introducing myself.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Edward Vidauri. I am author, editor, publisher. My new book out is Pandemia and Other Poems from Aztlán Libre Press. And I am the author of 7 collections of poetry. And I am also a publisher of, like I said, Flower Song Press. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm born and raised in Los Angeles, moved to Texas here 20 years ago. And here in Texas is where I became an official poet. So I guess you could say I'm a Texan poet. Okay. Hi, Frank. Hola, Nely.
Hola, ¿qué tal?
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you all very much. But first of all, I'd like to just say thank you so much to our authors for joining the Right Crowd. I'm so very happy to know you, and I'm so very grateful you could be here, and I'm happy we could all be here together to celebrate poetry virtually. And we can go ahead and begin with the Q&A.
All right.
And I have the first question for all of our panelists here, and we can answer in order on screen. So from Frank to Nely to Edward, and then back to me for the next question. And my first question is, where are you tuning in from? ¿Desde dónde estás sintonizando? Beginning with Frank Brewster III.
Estoy sintonizando de aquí, de la gran ciudad de Mission, Texas. Pero soy nativo de McAllen y en ambas ciudades es donde trabajo y de donde florece toda mi literatura.
Muy bien.
Okay.
¿Y Nely?
Ok, yo estoy aquí en McAllen, Texas. Aquí estoy desde hace 16 años. Aquí vivo.
And Edward.
Okay, I'm here in McAllen, Texas, but I've bounced around. I've actually lived in San Benito, Edinburgh, and Mission. I lived in San Benito, then I moved to Mission for a little bit, and then McAllen, and then Edinburgh, and then now I have a home here in McAllen, Texas.
Awesome.
Very nice. And I myself am tuning in from Harlingen, Texas. And I already have a comment from Mr. Raul Martinez Jr. saying, hi, everyone.
Hey, Raul.
Okay. Hola.
Thank you for tuning in. So my next question for our panelists would be, what genre of poetry do you tend to write and why? ¿Qué género de poesía sueles escribir y por qué? Beginning with Frank Brewster III.
Primeramente escribo temas de romance, de amistades, de dolor de corazón, pero también escribo muchísimo para los niños, desde pre-K hasta high school, y últimamente mis libros también ya se han comprado también para uno de los distritos aquí en San Juan Álamo, para adultos también igualmente.
Very nice.
Okay.
¿Y Nely?
Nely?
Ok, bueno, yo también escribo pues géneros diferentes. La verdad, en mis libros, no puedo, o sea, yo escribo diferentes cosas, y así las voy poniendo en el libro. O sea, no escribo que puro amor, puro desamor, puro, o sea, yo lo voy, ¿cómo se dice? O lo voy mezclando, por decir. Pongo un poema de una cosa, otra de otra y otra de otra, así. Porque cuando yo leo un libro de poesía de otras personas, a mí no me gusta leer todos los del mismo género. O sea, leo uno y luego me brinco a otro y así. Entonces, de esa manera escribo yo y así están mis libros.
Muchas gracias. And Edward?
I think it varies. I think it depends on the reader. I think their interpretation of the poetry could be what they think my genre is. Because if I write a love poem, it can be a heartbreak poem for them. But I think I write a mixture of things. I think I've written persona poems. I also write a lot of poems on, nature. I write political poetry as well. And so I've mixed it up in my new poetry. Of course, it's the political landscape of what's going on now, as well as of course, the pandemic. It's what's going on with our environment, and so it varies. And there's also some persona poems in there. I write also about family and things like that. So it's different. Yeah.
Very nice. And my next question for our panelists is, how has our current world situation impacted your writing career? ¿Cómo ha afectado nuestra situación mundial actual a su carrera como escritor? And beginning with Frank Brewster III.
In all honesty, because of the nature of my being retired also, it hasn't impacted me Personally, in my writing, it has not affected me at all. Where it has affected me is in my ability to travel throughout the U.S., which I do quite often, to do my presentations and do presentations at the national level at the National Association of Bilingual Educators, TABE, the Texas Association of Bilingual Educators, the Rio Grande Valley Bilingual Association of Educators, and many other conferences that I also go to showcase my literature. That has been greatly impacted. But again, as far as my writing, just recently, within the last few days, I wrote another poem, and it passed my biggest exam, which is my mother. Dun, dun, dun! So if she says it's very good and she gets a little teary-eyed, that's it. It's got to be good. Miss Nely?
Okay. Bueno, mira, creo que ha afectado en algunas cosas. Por ejemplo, a mí en lo personal, yo alcancé a hacer una presentación de este libro, pero esto fue en febrero, los últimos de febrero, pero teníamos otras presentaciones que íbamos a tratar de hacer, ¿verdad? Y pues ya después ya no se pudo en ninguna biblioteca, ni en los eventos que ya hacíamos en otras partes, ya no pudimos, presentar los libros, o sea, tanto yo como mucha gente, ¿verdad? También que estaba ya para presentar libros. Y también me ha ayudado porque el encierro que estamos viviendo, bueno, me ha ayudado a escribir mucho, ¿verdad? También, por el hecho de que a veces no puedes visitar a la familia, o cuando he visitado, por ejemplo, a mi mamá, que está en Monterrey, he podido ir unas 3 veces, tienes que saludarla de lejecitos, o sea, no puedes hacer como uno está acostumbrado, que te acercas y un abrazo y un beso y así. No, ahora nomás de lejos y con la más puesta, ¿verdad? Entonces, a ella en particular le ha afectado porque ella siente como que ya no, como que dice, ustedes ya no me quieren, es lo que dice ella, ¿verdad? Y porque ella pues, es una persona mayor y todo. Pero pues es algo que estamos viviendo y que nos estamos acostumbrando, vaya.
Muchas gracias. And Edward?
How has the political landscape affected my writing?
Like with everything in the pandemic, like either the staying home part or everything going on in the world because of it, how has it affected your writing career or your career as an author?
Well, I wrote a book. I wrote a book about it, but it's also made me do a lot of research in writing. It's made me spend more time reading and less writing in some, okay, I have done a lot of writing, but I've done also a lot of research in things that I want to learn about writing. In other words, for example, in the editing, part of the writing, and things like that. So it's given me moments of slowdown. It's also giving me moments of just in overall, just giving me more focus on everything that's around me, on, because it feels like there was like a standstill for a while where you couldn't do a lot of things, so you had to reinvent things, and you had to also pay attention to the things that were already there that we kind of take for granted on a daily because we're so busy doing so many things. So it's kind of I don't want to say a blessing because there's been so many tragedies during all this, but in a way, if you look at it in a positive way and you take advantage of the slowdown, there's so many things you could learn from it, and that I have in a way learned from, from this, instead of hunkering down and complaining about not being able to do things, just finding things that I have been able to do that I couldn't do before. It's given me a slowdown, but it's also given me perspective, and it's given me moments of being able to pay attention more to certain things and write things in more detail, because I was able to fine tune the attention on that.
Very nice. And I do have a question for yourself, Edward, from another local author, Patty York Raymond. Hi, Patty. She says, what is the title of your new book, Edward?
Hi.
Pandemia. Cool.
Very nice. Very nice. And so my next question, and we might have touched a little bit on it before, like in your previous answers, but if you want to go into more detail, is where do you draw inspiration for your writing? ¿De dónde sacas inspiración para tu escritura? And we can begin with Mr. Frank Brewster.
La inspiración de la escritura mía brota del fondo de mi alma, a través de mi vida, de lo que ha pasado yo personalmente en mi vida, a través de muchas décadas, también a través de lo que he visto en otras personas, a través de lo que está pasando en el momento. Y todo esto yo diría que es muy común entre los poetas, los músicos, los artistas, los pintores. Pero estas cosas que más me llegan al alma, obviamente, son las que con más pasión escribo. Y lo llevo a escribir porque tengo esa conexión con lo que estoy escribiendo. Y escribo mucho más en español porque el español para mí es mucho más romántico que el inglés. Escribo en ambos lenguajes, pero sí mucho más en el idioma de español. Aunque mi esposa, mi hija, mi nieta y ahora muy pronto mi hijo también escriben en inglés, y yo traduzco toda su literatura al español igualmente. Somos una familia de autores, y ellos igualmente escriben de sus pasiones, que no son como las mías, pero lo que yo escribo también lo grabo, y primeramente Dios, ya mis grabaciones, mi literatura ya se han escuchado muchísimo en Europa, especialmente, y más específicamente en España. Barcelona le encanta mi literatura, Colombia, Suramérica y México. Y inclusive también mi literatura ha sido reconocida también por el magazine Elle y el magazine Cosmopolitan en España igualmente. Vamos muy bien con eso, y me agrada que los temas de cuales yo también he producido o he declamado y he escrito les agrade a muchísima gente. ¿Miss Nely?
Felicidades.
Gracias.
Pues es verdad que uno escribe mucho, pues mucho de lo que usted dice es verdad. Uno escribe de sus propias vivencias, y de las de los demás, porque de uno mismo a veces no hay tanto para hacer un libro o dos, pero vas escribiendo sobre de las demás personas, de lo que te enteras, de lo que te platican, de una noticia. Yo Mi escritura es mucho de cosas tristes, la verdad. O sea, yo me inspiro cuando estoy triste. Si me duele algo, estoy triste, lloré o veo a alguien que está sufriendo, de ahí me inspiro, ¿verdad? De hecho, mis hijos, ellos no son muy asiduos a mi literatura. Ellos dicen, no, ma, tus poemas están tristes. Pero esa es mi forma de escribir. Yo escribo ya sea por mi mamá, por todo lo que ella pasó cuando estaba más joven, o por mi tía, que yo sé que sufrió y que tuvo muchas broncas, o por ejemplo, yo me acuerdo cuando yo estaba niña, estaba chiquita, tenía 6 años quizás, mi papá se venía mucho para Estados Unidos y temporadas muy grandes. Eso me dolía. Entonces yo escribo de esas cosas, ¿verdad? De lo que uno, aunque estaba chica, en ese tiempo no escribía, pero ya después, o sea, te viene a la mente todo eso, todo lo que sufrió tus hermanos, si alguna enfermedad, si murió tu tío, si alguien, no sé, se ahogó en un río, por ejemplo. Tengo poemas de algunas niñas que una vez murieron en un río y se murieron 3 juntas, ¿verdad? De esas veces que los papás las dejan que jueguen, pero no se dan cuenta que ya el agua las agarró y pues ya no las va a dejar vivas. Entonces yo a veces veo algunas noticias y yo de eso voy escribiendo. Entonces sí tengo bastante poesía triste, podría decirse, pero casi son también como reflexiones, o sea, reflexiones sobre la vida, sobre aprender de todo eso.
Very nice. And Edward?
My inspiration for writing, honestly, just comes from everyday life. But also, I get inspired a lot by reading other authors, and I think you could see the change in my poetry, and the way it's evolved from book one to book seven. On the different styles of writing. I think, it's everything. From being outside gardening to work to dealing with road rage to watching a sappy movie, everything, just watching our pets play, our cats and dogs, everything inspires. I think it's just a matter of when it clicks in your mind, or it gives you that twitch to want to write about it, because there's things going on all the time, but there's that moment where it just says, that's what you need to write about. But going back to what Nelly talks about, how she writes a lot of sad writings and stuff like that, you know, that's very important, because that type of writing, a lot of the times, what she's doing is she's writing things that, although they may seem very sad and people say they're sad, they're writings that she's a writer. A lot of people don't write, but they read, and her type of writing is the type that people that will read it and they can relate to it, because they're also going through it and they heal from that. So although it sounds like it's a sad poem, or something like that, it's also a healing poem. So it's beautiful that she writes when she feels or sees something that's might seem like a negative, but it becomes a positive in the work, because it becomes a healing element. So things that do inspire me to write are a crisis, pandemic, people that are going through some horrific things, and let's say hurricanes, or people going through some earthquakes and stuff like that. Sometimes you know your way of healing is through words, and they look for it, just like how people look for healing and listening to music. There's people that look for healing through words, through listening, through reading. And so that's, I think, our job, and our job is to help in that healing process through writing. And so I feel inspired to write, whether it's about a situation that may seem, you know, uh, you know, not right to write about, but there's always that audience that needs it, and we have to know that, we've got to write, and it's a responsibility.
Very nice. And I completely agree with that sentiment. And we actually have a comment coming in from Patty York Raymond saying, your poems are reflective of heartaches that also need a voice or affirmation. I absolutely agree. And she also, while Frank was giving his answers and his sentiments, she had said, you have a big heart, Frank, and your passion is evident in your writings.
I am not worthy, oh great one. Thank you, Patty.
And so my final question before we move on to the poetry reading segment is, what do you hope to accomplish through your poetry? ¿Qué esperas lograr con tu poesía? And we can begin with Frank Brewster III.
To me, that's a very, very good question. And in part, Edward already very well, very eloquently referred to it as well. What it is that I write and what has become of my writings as I have evolved myself through the many years is that this writing is not about me. And I say this at every conference I go to, everywhere I go, and I talk to kids, I talk to adults. Whatever I tell you that is about my writing is about my writing. But to be very honest with you, my writing is actually a collection of letters where every one of these compositions that I've written to, every single one of them has someone that I have written this literature to or for. But in doing so, at the end of and before I finish my work, I take the name of the person or people out. It has no name. It has no place. 99% of all my literature you will see does not have a name of a person or a place. Very, very few actually do. But the reason for that is because, again, this is not about me. This is about you, how you relate to it and what you think about this for you. It is not about me anymore. If you're able to take these words and you're able to interpret them in your own life as you wish, then I think I have done what it is I wanted to do. If these compositions, any of them, are taken ownership by you, the reader, and you feel that, oh my goodness, he's talking about me. No, I'm not talking about you. You are thinking about yourself and how you relate to this. It no longer has anything to me. These are just words. And these words mean nothing unless they mean something to any one of us who reads them. And what I've been able to do now from a single poem, from any one of these single poems, is to be able to create educational material. And I'll share that with you in a little bit. But that's exactly what I think of my poetry. It is not, and I should clarify that. Yes, I wrote it. Yes, it's mine. But no, it is not. It is your poetry. It is everybody's poetry. It's what you make of it. And again, I'll reiterate what I want to say. It was Edward again also. But it's not. It's not. You very eloquently said it. But again, it has nothing to do with me, everything to do with you. But your perception of it is what makes this blossom into something very, very impressive for you. And by the way, I encourage everyone to write your thoughts down on paper. If you don't want anybody to see them, burn them at the end. I mean, I've even done this with some students of mine. But you never know where your writing is going to take you. For me, it started off because my then principal asked me to take a New Jersey Writing Institute program when I was 35 and gorgeous like I am now, right? But yeah, so for 3 weeks, I took that intensive New Jersey Writing Institute program in La Jolla, Texas. And who would think that Mr. King, retired Dr. Daniel King from PSJA, would be instrumental in changing my career because of what he did. It was for education that he wanted me to go and do what I did. And it is because of education that I will share with you a little bit more in this program, what I have done with it, so that now thousands of children are listening and reading and writing and studying my literature. And thousands of people now are listening, reading, and to my CDs that I set to music. So it's there for you for the taking. Anyway, thank you.
Very nice.
¿Y
Nely?
Bueno, la pregunta era qué me gustaría lograr con la poesía, ¿verdad? Con lo que escribo.
Sí.
Ok. Bueno, a mí me gustaría y me ha gustado que cuando yo leo en algún evento de poesía, se me acercan algunas personas y me dicen, ay, mira, me gustó tu poema porque me recuerda a mi mamá, a mi hermano cuando estaba chiquito, a mi tía o así. Entonces, eso te llena, te gusta. Y en una ocasión estaba leyendo en una secundaria y se me acerca una muchachita, no sé, quizás 12 o 13 años, y me dice, todo lo que dijiste en ese poema le pasó a mi mamá cuando yo era chiquita. Y cosas de esas te van llenando, ¿verdad? Porque dice, sí hay gente a la que le gusta o que le llega, ¿verdad? ¿Qué es lo que uno quiere? Llegarle a las demás personas, ¿verdad? De alguna manera, porque por decir, quizás yo te enseño mi libro, a ti no te dice nada, pero hay personas que sí les dice, ¿verdad? Y de 100 poemas que tiene mi libro, a lo mejor 1 o 2 te van a decir algo, o te vas a encontrar ahí, o sea, como quien dice, retratada ahí, como si dices, como si yo lo hubiera escrito. Y eso es lo que me gusta mucho de muchas personas que te acercan y te dicen lo que sienten. Y también me gusta que se me acerquen las personas a veces y me dicen, si una ocasión he leído poemas que todavía no tenían el libro y me han dicho, si tú le cambias esta frase, le va a decir más a la gente, ¿verdad? Eso me gusta también, que me den, o sea, porque estoy aprendiendo de esto, ¿verdad? Me gusta aprender, no importa que yo ya tenga 50 y todos los años, 60, 58, pero siempre aprendes, de todo el mundo aprendes, de un jovencito, de una persona adulta, de un viejito, de una viejita, aprendes bastante. Y eso me gusta mucho, aprender para poder darles a los demás algo que les guste. Y mi idea de cuando he hecho lo de los libros para presentarlos y todo eso, y ya cuando están escritos y todo bien redactados, también fue porque mucha gente de mi misma familia saben que escribo, pero nunca habían leído algo, ¿verdad? Entonces, en una ocasión, como un fin de año, murieron 2 tías así bien seguiditas, ¿verdad? Y ellas siempre querían leer algo de lo que yo había escrito. Entonces eso me impulsó también de una vez, no, hay que hacer los libros porque si no, o sea, la vida se va, ¿verdad? A veces, de todas maneras. Y hay gente que se te queda en el corazón a ti, ay, si lo hubiera escrito antes, si le hubiera dado un libro o algo, para que ella viera lo que yo escribo. Y pues eso es lo que inspira a uno. Bueno, me inspira a mí también a seguir escribiendo y a veces escribes sin tener un gran motivo, pero te viene algo a la mente, algo que pues ya sea que te duele o que te gusta o algo, y te pones a escribir en ese momento, no importa la hora que sea, ¿verdad?
Muchas gracias.
Sí.
Very nice, Nely.
And Edward?
I think the question is, what would I want people to remember or
Like, what do you hope to accomplish through your poetry?
my poetry? Well, first of all, I want to inspire people through it, of course. Whether it's for them to write or just to take action in anything. If I write something and it doesn't make them go into action into writing, but maybe into joining a good cause or joining city council or something like that. That would be something that's important. But I just want my writing to have longevity. I hope that it speaks for many generations to come. That's what I think is what I want with my poetry. I hope that it transcends, and I hope that it is relevant for many, many years, you know. I hope that my writing, when I do write, I think about that a lot. I write with the intention that it will be relevant for many years, that it will always, you know, have a cause. Sorry about the noise. My cat just tried to jump up on something and knocked everything else down. But um, yeah, I want to write to make sure that it, of course, has longevity, but that if somebody is reading it 50 years from now, it's also got a historical content to it, you know, where it's like, okay, he wrote about this, you know, it's not just another poem about, you know, you know, a butterfly in Texas, because they can look that up in an encyclopedia or anything else, but they can look at, you know, maybe what happened to that butterfly, whether when it became extinct, so they can pinpoint the date, or when that butterfly was alive still through the poetry, you know, and what it was that I was able to see through my poetry and my eyes. So I guess not only it becoming poetry for the person reading poetry, but also history, so that it also something that someone can reference for history purpose. So yeah, I think I mean, when I write, I hope to touch on many facets, you know, not just writing for poetry, but for healing and historical content, and you know, humor, of course, and wit and stuff like that.
Very nice. And before I move on to the poetry reading section, where you all can have about 10 minutes to read some of your poetry, I have a comment coming in from Ms. Rosario Ozuna of Gruya, Texas, one book or novel at a time on YouTube, saying, "Muy cierto, very true. Readers do connect to poetry by linking their own experiences to the poem." Awesome guest, Katelynn. Hi, everybody. Hi, Rosario.
Hola.
Thank you very much for watching and joining. So thank you all very much for your responses. And now we will continue to the poetry reading segment of the panel, where each panelist will have 10 minutes to read their poems and works, beginning with Frank Brewster.
I'm going to share with you my poem, El Trapito. Okay? And this is, as I'm reading this, think about whatever comes to your mind that you may be able to relate to this through your own experiences. Don't think about this again as my poetry. Think about it as your poetry. El trapito me empezó a llamar. Deténganme, manos de soledad. Escuchándote encontré refugio en la oscuridad. Abrazándote a ti, pensaba, tendré paz y felicidad. En la noche con más fuerza te detengo, pensando en ti como te quiero. Suavemente te acaricio, mi lindo trapito. No tengas miedo, que aquí estoy contigo. De una camisa te corté y un pedacito me llevé. Conmigo te quedaste hasta el día en que te entregué a esas manos por quien yo lloré. Y es un trapito. This is how you also relate. This is another one titled American Freedom. And I'm very fortunate to say that my American freedom was received in 1600 Pennsylvania a few years ago when President Obama was there. So this is a tremendous honor for me. American freedom. Just as the stars in our American flag unite, so do we, the people of this great country. And to those heroes come and gone, we salute with honor, for their memory is our strength, and we, the symbol of a never-ending democracy. We have been, are, and will continue to be that shining light in a long chain of undivided American pride. And I am going to share a little bit of this here with you. Now, be as it may, again, whatever you think this is to you, this is titled ¿A quién desear? ¿A quién desear? Estoy apasionadamente enamorado de ti y quiero acariciar tu cuerpo desnudo, besando tus labios, consumiendo mi deseo por ti. Encontré la paz que tanto he buscado a tu lado, pero sufro porque otros brazos se estrechan sobre mí esta noche cuando pienso en ti. Perdóname mi nuevo cariño por lo tanto que te amo, pero mi almohada no me deja en paz al tener dos amores y no saber a veces a quién desear. Prefiero quitarme la vida que seguir viviendo en un infierno, sabiendo que dos amores no pueden ocupar el mismo lugar. This is a quien desea. And this other one is titled Bajo un árbol. Cantaste esa noche, voz de soledad, como una paloma blanca a través de la oscuridad. Llenas de melodías, en voz alta nos decías, de muchas vidas de cuales tú sabías. Palabras de sentimiento en esa noche nos llegaba, de parte de un alma apartada de la vida. Nos cuentas de romances, amistades y tus padres, como en aquellos años de cual te distanciaste. Pero dentro de ti, un gran hombre, con sufrimientos alimentados por el amanecer, renace tu virtud al atardecer. Descansando tu ser en canciones del ayer, escuchado por tus queridos ser, venimos a reconocer nuestro ser. Recordaré tu voz en el silencio de mi profundidad, donde esa paloma blanca iluminó mi realidad. And I want to share something else with you, and this one is titled 7. I hear, I listen, I dream, I awake, I exist, I live, I am. And I'll share a little something else with you. This is titled Long Ago. In a time past where future was long ago, it came to pass, a love come and gone. No light left from that glimmering glow, a faint glimpse of long ago. And I'll share something very, very quickly with you. This is from this book. This is Book of the Year 2015 in New York City's Latina Book Club. Tell me, Katelynn, how I'm doing in time, okay?
You're
This
doing well.
book also is Book of the Year for 2018 in the Latina Book Club in New York City. And I'll share some from this as well. But this is the educational part that I was talking to you about. This is where I take my poetry from the literature that I have, and I've set it to Teak, Star, ELPS, College Ready, along with a lesson plan. So this is the educational part that I will always and forever be thankful to Dr. King for. But here's El Trapito, and here's Sombra Mía. Sombra mía, a donde voy sin ti, que de noche y de día siempre estás aquí, and so on. But then what I do with this is that I set it to questions and answers a la TIC, a la STAR, that children are going to take. And then what I do, there's 10 compositions from the books in here. And then what I do, just FYI, is now I have vocabulary. So there's 100 vocabulary words in English, and I translate them to Spanish. So in all of this, I have become a bilingual dual language educator or author. And then I take vocabulary from the questions, and then I also translate them. But what is really cool about this is that teachers don't have to worry about a lesson plan. I've already done it for them. For TEKS, for STAR, for ELPS, correlations, everything's already in here. And then, but sir, I don't understand how to teach your literature. From hundreds and hundreds of pages and research, I've come down to these simple words here that will help educators teach the way I instruct them. These are my instructions to teachers to teach their students, and in the most simplistic way. And in addition to that, all of this comes here with a CD where I've recorded everything that's in here into the CD. This is volume 1. This is volume 2. And then in addition to that, I have this literature, and very, very quickly, oh, by the way, I even have little baby books. Woohoo! This is a story about a little butterfly. So this is my Mariposa Maria yellow butterfly. So this is what I am now and have been for some time, is a bilingual dual language literature / poetic author. And this is, I have like 12, 13 illustrators that work for my company, Brewster Guacamaya Enterprises. And they all have their different illustrations that finally go through a gentleman, a dear, dear friend, Mr. Francisco Javier Rendon, who makes sure that all of this writing is illustration is what it's supposed to be. But let me share with you what it is that I write in English and in Spanish. So this is a la dual language, while this here is a la bilingual. So you have the best of bilingual and dual language at the same time. In addition to that, here come the vocabulary words from Spanish to English and English to Spanish. In addition to that, this is the meat on the bone here. This is all English, all Spanish questions and answers a la higher thinking skill questions. So from your most basic questions, which are the only ones that have definite answers, to more questions and answers that are here, until we get to the final product, which is basically your synthesis here at the top of the pyramid. So all of this is to say that teachers no longer have to, write their questions and answers. I've already done them. And in the 10 programs, there are 10 different complete questions and answers and everything involved here, including a plan of instruction, how to teach my literature, more precisely in English, in Spanish. And then on top of all of this, I teach teachers how to do all of this. And there's 9 tracks to the CD that comes with this. And these are also available in big books. Check it out. So that's the little book. These are the big books. So now teachers can teach this way, like this. McAllen Independent School District has a set of my original 6 books in each of their elementaries there. Valley View ISD, the pre-K program has this in all of their pre-K programs. The Dana Independent School District also has this in their elementary schools. So it's there for them. Let me share with you very quickly. You tell me how much time I have, okay? But this is really, really cool. This is Mariposa Maria, okay? Mariposa Maria, llena de vida, de estas manos pequeñas abres tus alas y con el viento de nuevo vuelas. Adiós te digo, esperando verte una vez más, volando en el cielo azul te vas. Qué hermosa te ves, deseándote lo mejor pienso, hasta después. Jugando y cantando al tiempo en mi camino, te distingo, abriendo y cerrando tus alas descansando. En un árbol pequeño nuevamente te encuentro. Vuelve a mis manos de inocencia, compartiendo contigo otra vez mi alegría. Mi linda y preciosa mariposa María. And this is what I write. And of course, I translate it and I say it. So that this, and the big book. But check this out. Then I have another. These are programs. All of this that you see right now is being converted into virtual. All of this will be available in the next month or two. Everything that I have here, all of these are independent books. They all come with lesson plans. They all come with all of the things I shared with you. These are all my writings, and all of these are all bilingual dual language books. It's the best of two worlds. There are 22 schools that are now teaching my literature, and I'm very, very impressed. And like I said, there's thousands of children already reading my literature. This is my granddaughter's book, A Castle for Me. So this is my granddaughter's book. I'll share with you very quickly. This is my granddaughter, Ariel Adriana Garza. She wrote it in English, and Pampa took it an extra step and then made it a program with music as well. By the way, all of these have music in the background, all independent and everything. So I record, I do everything in my studio here in my office, and then off it goes to get remastered and redone and so on and so forth. This is my daughter Abby Brewster, and her book, Mariposa. This is she. And then this is my wife's book, Ballerina Bella. So she has her book in English and in Spanish as well. And
Oh, I think he might have disconnected. I hope that he joins back again. And there was a question for him. I know Rosario Ozuna was asking, is there a set for middle school, Mr. Brewster? But hopefully when he comes back on, we can continue. But vamos a continuar con los poesía with Nely Gonzalez.
Ok, está bien. Voy a leer este poema primero que se llama Mi madre. Va para mi mamá, son dos primero. Dice, mi madre, mujer callada y olvidada. Primero callaba porque quizá no encontraba las palabras ni el momento y se le pasó la vida buscando el tiempo. Pero ese no se te da si no te detienes y lo tomas ya. No la recuerdo golpeada por la mano de mi padre. Sus golpes eran diferentes. Casada con alguien que no sabe dar porque a él nadie le enseñó amor, respeto, cariño y fidelidad. Él solo vivía para la satisfacción personal. Los hijos nacieron, pero él no hizo un compromiso con nadie, ni con él, ni con Dios, mucho menos con mi mamá. Para él fue como jugar a la casita. En los primeros años trató de ser todo eso que encierra la palabra papá. Sin embargo, solo pudo querernos con muy poca responsabilidad. Pero la fidelidad, esa nunca se le dio. No sabía cómo comprometerse porque no le interesaba. Entonces mi madre permanecía callada. Los golpes que recibía mi madre eran diferentes. Eran las caras de sus niños cuando tenían hambre, o las noches negras cuando se le enfermaban y no había papá que ayudara. Sus golpes también eran tristezas de desprecios, el dolor de sentirse olvidada, como arrojada sola en una pobre casa, y el estar esperanzada a que el esposo llegara. Las lágrimas tristes de mi madre las llevo siempre en mí, dibujadas, y aún me queman cuando los recuerdos llegan. Las heridas de ella no se veían. Sus heridas eran las preguntas de sus niños que pedían sin comprender que no había. Y al no saber qué responder, él mejor se salía y dejaba que el peso de decir no hay quedara sobre los hombros de mi madre. Ella no se quedaba con los brazos cruzados. Salía a trabajar para traer de comer y regresaba con ansias desesperadas para hacer de comer lo que había conseguido. Aún así, no podía reclamar. Tenía que seguir callada porque el hablar no le remediaba la situación para nada. La otra también se llama El corazón en el armario. Quise buscar en los ojos de mi madre sus recuerdos que deben ser incontables e imborrables, de esos años que ya se fueron y con ellos se murieron sus días como latidos agonizantes. Creí encontrar en sus ojos alegrías, añoranzas y recuerdos gratos, mas solo me encontré con lágrimas calladas y reproches que nunca pudo gritar, y de esa manera los sepultó. Se los enterró en el alma, porque tú ya no estabas para restregártelos en la cara. Ella se fue quedando vacía, vacía de anhelos y amor de un hombre. Decidió ser madre y olvidó sus ansias de mujer. Su amor lo dejó para nosotros, sus hijos. Ella nos entregó su tiempo y su cariño, como en un momento pensó que debía de ser. Por mi amor y mi lealtad a ella, no me cansaré de reprocharte sus días grises y sus años de dolor y esperanzas muertas. Y aunque sus lágrimas siempre fueron calladas, yo las veo y las siento como si quisieran ser escuchadas. Quise encontrar en ella la dicha de saberse madre. Y sí, la encontré feliz. Se siente realizada de que nos vio crecer. Como madre no se reprocha nada, mas como mujer ella se quedó apagada y olvidada. Tengo otros dos acá. A ver. Tengo este. Dice, después de tus ojos, así se llama el poema, después de tus ojos. Con hilos de plata tejo mis recuerdos de sonrisas de nácar. Como alas de cigarra se alejan de mi mente buscando la calma. Con aires de grandeza la vida respira. Con cuartos de luna la vida termina. Después de tus ojos no hay nada, no hay luna. Tu aliento me impulsa a sentirme viva. Con hilos de plata te anudo a mi vida. No entiendo la mañana sin el volar de mis alas. ¿Cuántos minutos me quedan? Tengo otro acá. Este se llama Corazón infiel. Va para los infieles. Que no tengo fe y que tengo miedo. Sé que tú eres cruel, por eso ya no te creo. Sé que eres infiel, por eso ya no te quiero. Das tu palabra y después la olvidas. Que si hoy me quieres, mañana no sé. Tengo miedo de lo mucho que me duele, que te entregué mi cuerpo, mi vida y mi alma. Te entregué mi todo y no mereces nada. Y es por eso que le temo a lo que tú llevas dentro. Un corazón infiel, sin sentimientos. Ya no tengo fe ni ganas de creerte. Hasta el dolor que me dejaron tus besos, sé que los llevaré por siempre. Nada más eso voy a leer, para no excederme.
I do have a comment from another local author, Natividad Carrillo, para Nely, saying, mucho sentimiento, bravo.
Gracias, Natividad.
And I think, Mr. Brewster, you had disconnected, but I did have a question for you coming from Rosario saying, is there a set for middle school, Mr. Brewster?
Yes, absolutely. That what I was sharing with you just a few minutes ago is for middle school. So, and I have it in big book as well. I don't want to rain on all of this, but yeah. What I have in small books, this is for middle school. So they're in regular size book and they're in big books, and they come with all the bells and whistles and the recordings and the lesson plans and everything. Just plug it in and you'll shine. And they're age appropriate compositions. Yes.
Very nice.
Thank you.
And so then we can conclude the poetry reading segment with Mr. Edward Vidauri.
Thank you. Great stuff, Frank. Bonita poesía, Nely. Gracias. And thank you again, Katelynn, for inviting us all. Appreciate you. Okay, so I'll be reading from my collection, Pandemia and Other Poems. This one is titled, Los pájaros saben. Los pájaros saben. They perch on wires looking down at me with sorrow. Los pájaros saben. I whistle a tune. The kiskadee turns away. Los pájaros saben. The moon is sliced in half beyond the western skies. Los pájaros saben. The mockingbirds orchestrate the shrill of a pandemic. Los pájaros saben. The woodpecker's Morse code is the answer. Los pájaros saben. The nervousness in the way my wrists toss birdseed. Los pájaros saben. They know of the dying clergyman in Italy and locusts in Oman. Los pájaros saben why the river feels so familiar to drowning children. Los pájaros saben that a poet stands below them in search of words. This one's titled Images. The pandemic gave me a chance to see the wind and its curves and laces as she glides through me. Jazz gave me a dirty look. Spring is here and there is no Monday through Friday, and Sunday is Friday, and Saturday died. My mother knits with her sister, and they are aging together with love and remembrance. The mockingbird is learning a new flight pattern to go with her new song. Children sit in tent cities, still, still. Doctors and nurses are rock stars. When can we say rock stars are doctors and nurses? I'm afraid, yet I work through these ghostly streets of uncertainty. God is 1. God is an open wound, a kung fu movie, and a celestial sicario. God made our president with leftover road cotton and grackle droppings. His sandals are of leftover human skin from factory of suicide rock stars. Today he wears the kneecaps of Janice to match his UFO belt. God is unfazed at 3 p.m. He whispers to me from a 6 feet distance. God lays naked on steel surfaces with his long hair covering the shadow of men. God has a sticker on his chest that reads, I voted. He's nonchalant. He has a twin. She does all the good work. 2. God is your God's God, yoga and breathing. She is the breath of life, latex gloves and exhaling the sun over mountains. She is the blamed, the curve, the torn Achilles heel. God is a beat poet, the coming strain, the big question, the control, the last minute mind changer, the finger on the gun, the safety switch. God is the ultimate filter, the event planner, the street cleaner, the thing in the sky that was there and then was not, the ventilator, the death toll. She knows the bodies are coming. 3. God is language, a lisp, a stutter. God has Down syndrome, the autistic genius, the only child. From the other side of the tracks, have you ever thought of God as old? The wrinkled hobo and toothless smoker, the girl next door, the square-jawed bad hombre, creator of a new earth between ellipses, growing peonies on hyphens. God is soil and water, the trans angel, the monk making booze, the anorexic gargoyle breaking off a ledge, the movement in the painting. God's number is 8 digits behind iron bars, the noisemaker, the vuvuzuela in purgatory. Guilty. God is doing time. 4. God is a found poem in exile, an unbelievable truth, an asteroid belt crash, mammoth, that sound, that silence. 5. God is tired of rising on Easter. God is trying to figure out the diameter of this pandemic, writing ghostly hymns for the dead. Did you know God was the celestial laureate? Skywritings, the sounds you hear in the morning of birds and wind chimes, speeding cars and barking dogs. Did you know the sound was just that? Commotion? God writes those sounds into existence every day. I know when God is in a Motown mood, a hippie rock, or just a lounging jazz mood. And when it's too quiet, God let the whiskey get the better of him. 6. God likes to drink with me, and I listen. Sleepless in Pandemia. I can't sleep much these days, yet I'm tired and need to. I'm filled with strange dreams that seem to be building a mini series of grim realities at every turn. In the morning, I let out the dogs. There's a yellow haze that floats in my town, a stick to your skin enfermedad. This pandemic has me thinking, is there a God? Then I remember the stories, the poetry and prose of the antepasados, the faith of my abuela, the observation of nature's language, and I breathe in place. Pandemia, virus, we seem to be more together in this distance. This morning, the first flock of loros made their way to the wires. Above our house, cantando, a grackle perched, head lowered at a distance. Generation Z. You let me know about time, okay? Generation Z. They both stare at their phones. Kid tugs at dad's shirt, then mother's dress. Neither budge. Kid sits on floor and picks up a snake, eats the snake, then throws up. Kid stands up, begs for attention, sits back down, picks up a gun, puts gun in mouth, pulls the trigger. Parents stare at each other, get on their phone, download an app to give them instructions on how to cry. I went to Dallas, Texas, and I wrote a bunch of notes, little, pieces of poetry just along the way. As you just write little things that inspire you. And I just put a bunch of little things together and came up with this poem titled "Two Dogs Tumble Playfully." Will my death feed the worms or push the ocean deeper, closer to the sun? Papel picado, you were spared, I see. It must have been your yellow dress or the purple skirt, the one that dances when the mariachi sings. Which loves the most? Winter, spring, summer, or fall? Only lovers of nature see the thunder blue on the grackle's back. Or is it midnight blue? Along the borderlands, an autumn and winter held in cages, or are they face down in the river? Did I tell you when I wrote about insomnia, I was asleep? Mother, the day I was born, was father invited to cut the umbilical cord? Or did he just stare at the scissors in his garden in front of his garden? Two dogs tumble playfully on the grass while the owners look on. What's the dialogue of the dogs? I'm surrounded by oak trees under the shade. Poinsettias promise a December bloom. How fast is 5 months traveling? Dallas has stars in the sky, and behind the mic, there's a woman here so black, so rich, like chocolate melting. Does the moon drool at her sight? Barbecue and beer, what side of 80s music goes with ribs? Music by two, close your eyes, intake like sweet smoke. What's cloud 10 like? In Dallas, all colors are west shade. How do you tell the cicada their song paints the night an amber mist? I'll read two more.
Okay.
This one is titled um I'll read from the last section, and they're not too long. I'll read one titled Three Little Birds, and Three Little Birds. A grackle bathes a midnight blue streak straight down her back, shiny, tombstone eyes reflecting on the water. She pokes her head in and lifts her head to let it run down her dry throat. A river settles, slow ripples groove down to her feet. Above, on veins of electricity, a mockingbird waits its turn. Not far from both, picking on safflower and thistle, a finch watches. And I'll read If Roque Dalton Were My Father. Roque Dalton is probably the most popular poet from El Salvador, or poet that El Salvador has ever produced. And so this is a poem titled If Roque Dalton Were My Father. 1. We would have discussions about the lake in the sky, the longing for pupusas del Oroco as we sit and fight off the Texas heat, drinking ensalada. I would be smoking and he would be writing to El Salvador with his gray hands, perhaps a poem, a song, a new anthem. If Roque Dalton were my father, he too would have left me, and all I would have left to remember him by would be gunpowder, books, and that lake in the sky. 2. I would be his love, not the kind of love he's proud of, but the kind of love he suffers for. 3. We would sit in silence. We would crave it together, the halt of things, the respect for nature's song, the listening for once, not voices, sounds, together, listening for the sound of pain, together, searching for the place where it is adhered to. No yelling, no screaming, no man-made sounds, just our souls when walking. The crisp whispers of our clothes when we slip into them, the sighs of the dying. And what of the marimba playing as we swallow black oysters? 4. Why do you pant? Your face tumbling downward, sinking into the ashes, my heart. I would ask about the birds and the bees. How can anyone think of making love in this fire? Sun, everything burns, the streets, the walls, our nakedness, even the entrance to heaven. Sometimes we must not even look to the skies. Clouds want to go unseen when the bell tolls at noon. And we will sit in silence on the hillside watching the smoke, listening to the sirens and gunfire, eating manguitos and trembling. 5. We have both lost good friends, written their names in the sky, poured cold beer on hot asphalt in their memory. I sometimes whistle when I think of the dead. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you so much. And before we move on to concluding remarks, I did have a comment coming in from Patricia Rentería saying each of you brings so much feeling to words. I think you all are amazing. Thank you. Thank you. And honestly, a huge thank you to yourselves just for being here, for coming on. I greatly, greatly enjoyed the poetry reading section of just, you're all so eloquent and so amazing and just beautiful people with beautiful personalities, beautiful hearts. And I thank you so very much for taking the time, not only to answer questions, but to share some of these readings and allow, viewers, like I'm a viewer right now listening to you and taking it in and, digesting it. And it's beautiful and so wonderful. And thank you all again. And I like the order we're in here. It's like we're a little circle. So, we can conclude with some final concluding remarks from yourselves, telling us where your books are, where they're available, where we can find them, website, social media, and things like that. So I'd like to conclude in a little circle, beginning with Frank Brewster III.
Well, first of all, thank you, Ms. Katelynn Rentería, for the amazing opportunity to have asked me, to have invited me to be here. I have no words other than sinceramente, muchísimas gracias a usted. You're just an amazing lady, and I appreciate what you are doing for so many authors, especially here in our own Rio Grande Valley, that you are letting the rest of the world know that we are here. We don't have to go to New York, California, Chicago, when we already have this incredible pool of talent right here among so many of us. Thank you again. My website is www.fbg, the word enterprises.com. As you can see, Ms. Rentería already put it on your screen. And you will find anything and everything and so much more there, including one more thing that I wanted to share with you. This is for all of you educators. These are the workbooks, and I have 20 plus workbooks for each and every one of my compositions, and they range from pre-K with pre-K Texas standards all the way through junior high, high school, and adult literacy is the standards, Texas adult literacy standards. And these are all set to all of their own lesson plans. Again, can be studied from pre-K through adult literacy, all the way through high school. And my email is all lowercase fbrewster@yahoo.com. Again, Ms. Rentería, you're amazing. You're way ahead of the ball here. You can also find my literature through calling Ms. Katelynn Torres, who I tremendously appreciate all the help that she has afforded me throughout many years as I've traveled through the valley with her, showcasing the literature. She's at Barnes & Noble by the Expressway on Expressway 83. Please look her up. She can get anything and everything, just like I can, through my website, either which way. It's all the same. So please give Katelynn Torres at Barnes & Noble a call. And very soon, you will see my entire list of literature. Everything is going online, a la virtual. I've seen already some of the samples of it, and it is amazing. It's coming with games, word puzzles, mix match. I mean, you're going to everything that I've written will be in there. All the students have to do is just get the PDF, send it back to the teacher with all of the answers already on it. It's amazing in all of the different platforms that it will be also available. And my literature will very soon be on Amazon, eBay. All of this is going to be, my literature will be on it with the music. So the audio books are on their way out. Within the next 2-3 weeks, they will be in all of those other platforms as well. And lastly, if you'd like to listen to my literature, you can always go to Spotify, Amazon Music, what's the other one? iTunes Music, CD Baby. And I just uploaded 2 weeks ago the rest of my CDs. This is one of them. You can hear my music set to mariachi. You can hear it set to guitar. Mr. Hector Rodriguez, Hector Javier Rodriguez, he's the professor of guitar at UTPA, UTRGV. He's an amazing guitarist. Wait till you listen to him play in the background. And check out his virtuals. That he had one today as well with a guest artist. Freaking amazing. You won't even hear the fret change in him. This is yet another CD that I have. I don't know that you can see it. I think there's something. There you go. That's another one. And then you'll have my literature again also up on all of these different platforms. All of this is available. Ta-da! And finally, a group of 4 volume with his music, Mr. Hector Rodriguez on Spanish guitar, playing 4 different volumes. And I have this on book sets. And this is all available through Brewster Guacamaya Enterprises. I hope to visit with some of you or many of you. And I'll leave you with this. I'm very excited that very soon some of the biggest school districts here in Texas will be acquiring my literature from pre-K through adult literacy. I'm extremely, one of them is looking at, one of the larger school districts is looking at acquiring my literature for 200 plus of their 230 schools. I'm extremely excited that they love my literature, and I look forward to anyone and everyone coming in and take advantage of this. Thank you, Ms. Katelynn, very much, and Mr. Vidauri and Ms. González. Qué honor estar aquí con ustedes hoy esta tarde. Es un honor muy grande para mí estar con ustedes, grandes personajes. Thank you, ma'am.
Very nice. Y Nely Gonzalez, por favor, puede decirle a la audiencia los títulos de sus libros, dónde están disponibles sus libros y otra información de las redes sociales.
Ok, bueno, mis libros también, están en Barnes & Noble de ahí del Expressway y Where, aquí en McAllen, están por Amazon y pues cuando hay eventos, normalmente pues, llevo los libros, ¿verdad? Este se llama Un Corazón en Soledad y este otro es el de Una Carta y 100 Poemas para ti. Cuando hay eventos pues presenciales, que ya hace mucho que no hay, pues normalmente los llevamos, ¿verdad? Y muchas gracias y mucho gusto, señor Frank, por conocerlo. Edward, hace mucho que no te saludaba. Que la sigas pasando bien, que todo vaya de maravilla. Y qué bueno que estuvimos aquí, nos podemos ver por aquí, ¿verdad? Katelynn, muchas gracias por habernos reunido y para mí la primera vez y la verdad que sí, no sabía cómo iba a ser. Pero bueno, ya aquí seguimos aprendiendo como siempre. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. And Edward, where can we find your work after this? I think you're muted.
Perfect. Okay. Simple. If you go to Google and you just write my name, Edward Vidaurre, and then Amazon, it'll take you to my Amazon page, and every single book I'm in is on there. I also would like to invite you guys to go to my press page, which is flowersongpress.com, and you'll see a couple of my books there, but you'll also see poetry by the press that I run, and a bunch of authors, some from the Valley and some from many parts of Texas and from around the world as well. And so thank you. You can also go to Aztlán Libre Press and find my new book, Pandemia and Other Poems. If you want to check me out on Facebook, look me up under my name also. I have a Twitter also. Just type in my first and last name, and Instagram. I'm on all of that. So you just look me up. Join at your own risk.
Ms. Rentería, may I mention just a few words?
Yes, of course.
Mis más sinceras gracias a mis gran profesoras, a quienes me ayudan muchísimo con lo que escribo yo. La señora Mrs. María Cecilia Guerrero Balsaldúa, Mrs. Almendra Ochoa Vidal, Miss Laura Verónica Marioni, Miss María Cecilia Guerrero, Miss Vanessa Márquez, Miss Laura H. Cuevas, Partida, y Miss Mariana Pérez, y Miss Ruth Álvarez, mis gran profesoras que las adoro a ellas por toda su ayuda y su apoyo a través de mi literatura. 1,000,000 de gracias. Thank you, Ms. Rentería. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we can end with 2 final comments from YouTube and Facebook. One book or novel at a time on YouTube says, wonderful poetry. I really enjoyed listening to each of you. Thank you. And Grecia Sanchez in Facebook says, woohoo, Mr. Brewster. Thank you all so very much for coming. Thank you for your reading. I greatly enjoyed this. And this is not the end of The Right Crowd. We will have another panel coming up at 4 o'clock today, 2 more tomorrow, and we have 1 more weekend full of panels of different genres and special guests. But again, thank you so very much for coming today. I admire every single one of you, and I thank you so very much for your time. So thank you and see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Okay, hasta luego. Bye. Saludos.